Hello! So it's not even been a couple hours since I filmed the end of my first Dumas video. I just finished the Three Musketeers yesterday. It's time for us to jump 20 years into the future with the next Dumas book. And like I said in my first video, I'm excited about this because this is all new territory. I have not read this and I'm in suspense of what's going to happen because The Three Musketeers is a strong standalone book and I don't think it needs a second book, but it has a second book. So it is my duty to read it. I'm gonna read it and find out if it was really necessary. Honestly, I'm excited because I love these characters so much and I'm looking forward to getting more of them. However, I just cannot imagine that it's even as good as The Three Musketeers. But that's what I'm here to find out. So the back says, it is 2 decades have passed since the Three Musketeers triumphed over the Cardinal and Milady. Time has weakened their resolve and dispersed their loyalties, but treasons and stratagems still cry out for justice. Civil war endangers the throne of France, while in England, Cromwell threatens to send Charles I to the scaffold. Dumas brings his immortal quartet out of retirement to cross swords with time and the malevolence of men. But their greatest test is a titanic struggle with the son of Milady who wears the face of evil. And I think that's interesting because when I was rereading The Three Musketeers for the 3rd time, there's 2 sentences in the book stating that Milady has a son. And this time it really registered with me and I was like, she has a son? Where is her son? She's obviously not taking care of him because she's off committing crimes and working for the Cardinal. We don't know how old he is in The Three Musketeers. I'm picturing a young person, but apparently this book, Milady's son, is the deal, the issue, which is interesting because there's like evil running blood. Is an evil a genetic trait? But I don't know. We'll find out. I'm a little nervous because it's 788 pages, which is a lot, and the font is tiny. What's also interesting is you can't really see that. There is a map. Why is there a map? Is this a high fantasy? No. It's actually interesting because these books, at least The Three Musketeers and this one, the major historical events that happen in these books are true. It's just these characters that he's created and the story around them. However, I believe D'Artagnan was a real person. I think there's a statue of D'Artagnan somewhere. I think he was a real person. But anyway, I have to get reading. To be honest with you, I'm already about 18 pages in. I've read a couple chapters and my 2 guesses are that it's not going to be as good as The Three Musketeers and that it's going to be sad because these characters that you know and love are no longer young and bright-eyed. Like, they've aged, things have happened, but nonetheless, I am going to persevere through this book. But thank you for coming back if you watched my first one. If you haven't watched the first one about The Three Musketeers, then you need to go do that because you're not going to know what we're talking about. I'd actually probably be fine, but if you want to be in the loop, watch that video. But that is it for now. I will be back to let you know how it's going, and I will see you later. Bye. Stop, people are looking. This is, I think, a good way to do the book update is on a bike ride midday in Florida heat. We don't know where we're going. I mean, my update is brief, but I'm about 270 pages in, about 30% of the way through, and I really had no idea what to expect. I had no idea how much it was going to reference The Three Musketeers, but it's actually referencing The Three Musketeers a lot, which is cool. I like that. And so the Cardinal in the first book is dead. He's no longer her around. So it's a new cardinal, and this new cardinal is in a relationship with the queen. And I don't know exactly what the plot is yet, like what's going on. Still developing what's going to be the main issue. But the cardinal is like, I need some really strong men, right, to do this thing for me. I need some brave, reliable, smart men. And someone's like, well, have you ever heard of D'Artagnan? He's a lieutenant in the Musketeers, and he tells them all about what D'Artagnan did in the Three Musketeers 20 years ago. And he's like, okay. So he calls up D'Artagnan, and he's like, I need your help. And he's like, okay, but I want you to get your 3 friends. And he's like, well, I don't know where they are. And he's like, well, I'll give you 3 days, go and find them, because I need you guys to do something for me. So he's like, okay. And he goes. Aramis is in a convent. Porthos has been married and is living richly. Aramis turns him down. Aramis is like, no, we can't. I can't leave what I'm doing here. And so he goes to Porthos, and Porthos is like, sure, my wife died a couple years ago. I'm bored, and all this money isn't making me happy. So sure, I'm down for an adventure. And then he goes to Athos. This is the part that gets me, okay? D'Artagnan is going to find Athos, and he's like, I'm kind of worried that like he's gonna be drunk, poor, he could be dead, because he was kind of a drunk in the Three Musketeers. So D'Artagnan was a bit worried that without being in the Musketeers, he was gonna like waste away. That's what he was worried about. But he goes, and he's living on this beautiful estate with a bunch of land and, servants and animals and all, the whole 9 yards. And he's raising an adopted son. He has a child. Well, and he's like 7, the kid's like 17 or something. And Athos is like, yeah, you're right. No, if I was gonna become a drunk and just let myself go, but I woke up one day and this child was on my doorstep. So he's like, well, I gotta take care of this kid. So he gets his crap together and raises this kid. And it's so cute. Ow, ow. This bike is too tall for me. Did you see that bug? Those are giant. What the heck is going on in Florida? But that's been my favorite part. The fact that he's been raising a child this whole time, that just honestly makes me so happy that he's, oh my gosh, those are giant crickets. The fact that he's, not just wasted away and that his life purpose is now raising this son. Anyway, I'm to the point, oh my gosh, I almost ran over one. There's so many. There's so many giant crickets in the road. But Athos turns him down too. Athos is like, he's like, no, I don't serve that cardinal. Like, I don't like that cardinal. My hands are cramping. But basically the part that I'm at now is only Porthos has agreed to come with D'Artagnan. And so they go back to the cardinal, and the first thing that's happened is this guy that's a threat to the cardinal has escaped from the Bastille, from prison. And so the cardinal's all nervous, and D'Artagnan's like, well, we'll go get him. We'll go get him right now. So him and Porthos head off to go get this guy. They start fighting these guys at night. It's dark. They can't say who they're fighting, but they're people who are protecting Beaufort, this gentleman who's escaped from the Bastille. And it turns out that these people that they're fighting, who are protecting the guy who wants to get the cardinal, is Athos and Aramis. What? So it turns out that Athos and Aramis are, they call it on the prince's side, and they're working for him. Whereas now D'Artagnan and Porthos are on the cardinal side and are working for the cardinal. So their loyalties are split, and they're all upset about it. They're like, we're enemies now? Are you kidding me? And then they go have a meeting the next night. They go like, oh, let's go to this place together and let's talk about what's going on. At first it's really tense because it's like, are we gonna fight each other after all we've been through together? But then they have this really touching heart-to-heart moment. Like, no, we are bonded. There's nothing that can separate us. Even though we're working for the opposite sides, we will never hurt each other. Like, we'll never clash swords in anger. And it's just really touching. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't know the whole overarching plot, what's going on yet, but their loyalties are now split. D'Artagnan and Porthos are with the cardinal, and Aramis and Athos are with the prince. And that makes me upset, but I'm glad that they had this heart-to-heart where it's like, no, no, no. I don't care if we're fighting for different sides. We will always be, the inseparables. We are bonded brothers. I'm really enjoying it. So far, it's been a good sequel. It's giving me what I want. That is the update I have for now, while I try not to crash on this bike ride. of this freaking book. I'm back from Florida, and I finished 20 Years After. I read a lot while I was in Florida, but I finished it in these past couple days that I've just gotten home. And I've literally just finished it. Like 10 minutes ago, I finished it, set up the camera. Now I'm here. And I'm still processing, still ruminating in it. I started thinking about it last night because I came really close to finishing it last night, but it was kind of late and I wanted to go to bed. So I could see how things were wrapping up, but I needed to go to bed. I needed to put it down. So I've been thinking about it since last night and I just finished it. And it's good. I don't know why a part of me wants to be like, it's a sequel, the first one's better. This is good. This is a good sequel, and I don't know why I didn't even know The Three Musketeers was a series until a couple of months ago. Like, why did I just recently find that out when I've been obsessed and in love with The Three Musketeers for 2 years at this point? Why is nobody reading this book? Now, I will say that if you read The Three Musketeers and you liked it, because how could you not like it? But if it just like wasn't really your thing, you respect it for what it is, and that's that. This isn't necessary, okay? This isn't needed. It's not like it finishes a cliffhanger in The Three Musketeers, because like I've said, The Three Musketeers is a good standalone book. It has a good epilogue, it wraps it up, ties a nice little bow on it. But if you read The Three Musketeers and you were just as enthralled and in love with these characters as much as I was, then this book is great, okay? It just kind of digs that hole deeper, right? It just gives you more to chew on and think about and love of these characters. And like, I'm happy with this book. I'm not mad at anything this book did. The last I updated on my bike ride, which by the way, I hope that wasn't too hard to watch. For some reason, I woke up one day while we were in Florida and I was like, I need to film an update and it has to be on a bike ride. This book, it has two major plot lines. One is the political intrigue. There is civil unrest in France. People who like the cardinal and people who don't. Mostly people who don't, because there is this large amount of civil unrest. And D'Artagnan, being a lieutenant of the Three Musketeers, is working for the cardinal who serves the king. And whether or not D'Artagnan really likes the cardinal or really agrees with the cardinal, he serves the cardinal because it's his job. That's how he gets paid. And so the main issue is the civil unrest in France, and that is causing D'Artagnan and his friends to be split. Him and Porthos are serving the cardinal, and Aramis and Athos are on the other side, and they're fighting against each other, but they've had this heart-to-heart where they're like, no, we're actually not really going to be against each other. We won't fight each other. We love each other too much for that. And this book is just filled with scenes of these like bro moments that are so touching, because you love these characters. At least I'm speaking for myself. I love these characters so much. I am so connected to them and I care about them so much. You can't help but love them because they're so honest and they're gentlemen and they're so brave and strong and just good guys. Like, none of them are bad people. They're all good men and you just love them so much. And their devotion to their purpose in life, their job, their country is so strong, but they also have debatably an even stronger bond to each other, because even though they are serving separate sides, that will not come in the way of their devotion to each other. And so that is the main conflict, the political conflict. And then the other conflict that kind of helps bring them together is the conflict with Milady's son, who is now 20-ish years old, and he knows about what they did to his mother. I don't think I spoiled what happens in The Three Musketeers, like a lot of the details. So Milady's son is coming after D'Artagnan, Athos, Aramis, and Porthos, and Lord de Winter, his uncle, technically, and he's coming after them for revenge. And he's this, like, devil incarnate, like, evil man, apparently. And that conflict also brings the guys together because, they're like, oh, what are we going to do about this? Like, do we kill him? Like, he hasn't done anything to us. Are we supposed to kill him? I don't know. And so those are the two main conflicts in the book. And it's just, I mean, the same amazing writing as Dumas. I would say differences is like the Three Musketeers was actually funny. Like there were moments where I was laughing out loud, like legitimately funny. Dumas is a comedic author at some point. This book, I would say, less funny. Like it's still the same Dumas, the same characters, the same kind of thing, but it's less funny and more just like heartfelt and touching, because the character development in this book makes me cry, because it is 20 years later. Dumas didn't just write the same characters 20 years later. He actually like matured them. They are 20 years older. D'Artagnan is no longer this like bright-eyed, optimistic little boy who's just like so excited to just be in battle. He's now this mature lieutenant in the Musketeers who's seen a lot of war, done a lot of things, is a grown man. And same goes for everyone else. They're all older and more mature. And especially Athos, who has his life focus and purpose has shifted from being a musketeer to being a father to his adopted son. And in the first book, I would also say that Athos is a lot more funny, and he's also a lot more emotional. He's going through a lot of things in the first one. And in this one, he's a lot more grounded and not as depressed and emotional as he was in the first one. And just like a dad, he's like, maybe we shouldn't go headfirst into battle because I got a son, and D'Artagnan, I think of you as my son, and I don't really want you to die. And there was a small moment yesterday where I was very concerned that Dumas was going to unalive one of my favorite characters. I was I was like this close to tears, but fortunately no tears came. Fortunately, no sadness like that was brought upon me. There are very dramatic scenes in here, and it's intense. And I think that's everything. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to really point out. I liked this book a lot, and yet there's another book I get to read. Honestly, I was debating today whether or not I wanted to jump right into the third one, because I've read a lot of Dumas. I've just read, over 1,000. How many pages is the first one? Like 1,500 pages of Dumas for the past month. And I've been enjoying it, but I don't want to get burnt out with Dumas. So I'm debating picking up something small and light on my TBR shelf just to space it out, just to give myself a fresher mind when going into the Man in the Iron Mask. But also, I was reading the back today and I was like, but that sounds good. And it's not nearly as hefty as 20 Years After or The Three Musketeers, and the font is way bigger. But yeah, that's it for now. Another win in the books for me. Thank you for coming back, and if you're interested in this Dumas series, then be prepared for the next book in the series because it's coming eventually. So thank you so much for being here. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Minecraft me?